The mahogany table cracked under the weight of Jonathan Prescott's fist, sending crystal glasses trembling across the pristine white tablecloth. Silence descended over Oceana, the most exclusive restaurant on the coastline, as diners froze mid-conversation, and waitstaff paused with trays suspended in air. "Unacceptable," he growled, dark eyes narrowing beneath perfectly groomed silver hair that contrasted sharply with his midnight blue bespoke suit. The whispers about his connections to organized crime were never spoken aloud in his presence, yet everyone in Boston's elite circles knew exactly who controlled the city's shadowy underbelly. A single drop of red wine had stained the sleeve of his custom-tailored jacket, a minor offense that had triggered a disproportionate response. His security detail, 3 broad-shouldered men with telltale bulges beneath their jackets, shifted uncomfortably as their employer's temper flared against a new waitress. Samantha Hayes maintained perfect posture as the tirade continued, her auburn hair pulled back in a severe bun that emphasized the sharp angles of her face. Her expression revealed nothing, not fear, not anger, not even the appropriate servile apology expected in her position. "I've seen homeless people with better coordination," Jonathan continued, his Boston accent thickening with each scathing word. The restaurant manager hovered nearby, pale-faced and sweating, desperate to defuse the situation before it further disturbed the high-profile clientele. For 3 seconds, perfect stillness reigned as diners and staff waited to see how the humiliation would unfold. The restaurant's ambient music seemed to fade as all attention focused on the unfolding drama between predator and unexpected prey. "Mr. Prescott," Samantha finally spoke, her voice clear and unflinching as she placed the wine bottle deliberately on the table. "I believe there's been a misunderstanding about who exactly you're speaking to right now." She stepped forward rather than back, invading the invisible barrier of his personal space with a confidence that silenced even him. The bodyguards tensed, hands moving instinctively toward concealed weapons as she leaned slightly forward. "This establishment prides itself on impeccable service, which I intend to provide despite your behavior," she continued, reaching into her apron pocket. Instead of the expected cloth for cleanup, she withdrew a business card and placed it precisely beside his plate. The restaurant manager nearly fainted as Jonathan's expression transformed from outrage to shock, color draining from his face as he recognized the embossed insignia on the card. His security team exchanged nervous glances, suddenly uncertain about the appropriate response. "My sincere apologies for the wine, sir," Samantha concluded with the faintest smile touching the corner of her mouth. "Your meal is, of course, complimentary this evening, a courtesy between colleagues rather than an admission of fault." She turned with the graceful precision of a dancer, walking unhurriedly toward the kitchen as conversation slowly resumed throughout the restaurant. Jonathan sat motionless, staring at the card with an expression that shifted between disbelief, calculation, and something approaching respect. "Boss?" His head of security questioned softly, leaning in with concern etched across his features. "Should we—" "No," Jonathan interrupted, tucking the card into his inner pocket with unexpected care. "We've clearly misjudged the situation, Antonio. Significantly misjudged it. By closing time, whispers about the confrontation had reached every corner of Oceana, but Samantha had vanished, her single scheduled shift apparently completed. The question lingering on everyone's lips: who was this fearless woman who could silence Boston's most dangerous man with nothing but a business card? 2 days passed before Jonathan found himself parked outside a modest brownstone in South Boston, far from his customary territory of luxury penthouses and private clubs. The neighborhood was respectable but unremarkable, perfect camouflage for someone who preferred to remain unnoticed. His driver waited in the car as Jonathan approached the building alone, an unprecedented breach of his security protocols that demonstrated his unusual interest. The manila folder tucked beneath his arm contained everything his investigators had uncovered about Samantha Hayes in 48 hours of intensive research. The information had shocked even him. Graduate degrees in international finance and criminal justice from Harvard, 5 years at the FBI's Financial Crimes Division, and then a sudden, unexplained resignation 18 months ago. The waitressing job was clearly a cover, but for what purpose remained frustratingly unclear. Rain began to fall as Jonathan stood contemplating his next move, fat droplets darkening the shoulders of his cashmere overcoat. The rational choice would be to eliminate this potential threat before she could become problematic, yet something about her fearless confrontation had sparked his curiosity. "Planning to stand in the rain all evening, Mr. Prescott?" Samantha's voice came from behind him, causing him to turn with uncharacteristic surprise. She stood beneath a black umbrella, dressed not in waitress attire, but in a tailored charcoal pantsuit that spoke of professional authority. Her eyes, a striking amber he hadn't properly noticed in the restaurant's dim lighting, assessed him with clinical precision. "I wondered how long it would take you to find me," she continued, stepping past him to unlock the building's entrance door. 18 hours, actually, he replied, accepting her implicit invitation to follow her inside. "I've become less efficient in my advancing years. In my prime, I would have been here yesterday morning." The apartment betrayed nothing of her personality. Minimalist furnishings, no photographs, walls painted a neutral gray that offered no insights. It resembled a high-end hotel suite rather than a home, suggesting temporary residence rather than permanent settlement. "Your background is unexpected for someone clearing tables at Oceana," Jonathan observed, declining to sit despite her gesture toward a leather armchair. The folder remained unopened in his hand, its contents now seemingly unnecessary in her presence. "And your reaction to a wine stain was excessive even for a man of your reputation," she countered, removing her suit jacket to reveal a shoulder holster containing what he recognized as a Glock 19. The display wasn't threatening but informative, establishing parameters for their conversation. Jonathan felt the unfamiliar sensation of being outmaneuvered, a position he hadn't experienced in decades of controlling Boston's underworld. "Why don't we dispense with the preliminaries, Ms. Hayes, and discuss why a former federal agent is infiltrating establishments frequented by my organization?" "I'm not investigating you, Mr. Prescott," Samantha replied, pouring 2 fingers of scotch into crystal tumblers without asking his preference. "If I were, you'd already be facing indictment rather than standing in my living room discussing career choices." The scotch was Macallan 25, his preferred brand and vintage, another small detail she'd somehow acquired. Jonathan accepted the glass, allowing his fingers to brush against hers deliberately, testing for reaction, but finding none. "Then perhaps you'll enlighten me about your interest in Oceana," he suggested, taking a measured sip. "It seems an unlikely coincidence that you'd select my regular Thursday establishment for your foray into food service." "I needed your attention," Samantha stated simply, the directness of her response momentarily disarming him. "The wine spill was deliberate. I anticipated your reaction and leveraged it to create a memorable introduction." Jonathan's laughter broke the tension, a genuine sound that softened the hard lines of his face and revealed glimpses of the charming man who moved comfortably among Boston's legitimate business circles. "In 30 years, no one has ever sought my attention through calculated wine spillage. Conventional approaches seemed unlikely to penetrate your security layers," Samantha responded with the ghost of a smile. "Desperate circumstances occasionally require creative solutions, Mr. Prescott, particularly when time is a critical factor." She moved to a concealed wall safe behind an abstract painting, extracting a file significantly thicker than the one Jonathan still carried. "Your organization is being targeted by federal authorities, not for your activities, but as leverage against someone else." The information she presented was meticulously documented. Surveillance reports, financial records, photographs of federal agents meeting with members of a rival organization. Jonathan's expression remained impassive, but his mind worked rapidly, assessing implications and potential consequences. "The Rodriguez cartel has established a working relationship with certain corrupted FBI officials," Samantha continued, spreading photographs across the coffee table. "They're building a case against you based on falsified evidence to eliminate competition for East Coast distribution." Jonathan studied her face, searching for deception, but finding only the steady gaze of someone presenting objective facts. "And your interest in this situation stems from—" He left the question hanging between them, waiting for the true purpose of her elaborate approach. "The same officials were responsible for my partner's death during an operation 18 months ago," she replied, her voice remaining steady despite the flicker of pain in her eyes. "They buried evidence, labeled it a tragic accident, and promoted the agent who pulled the trigger." Understanding dawned across Jonathan's features as pieces aligned into a coherent narrative. "You're seeking revenge, Ms. Hayes, a motivation I find both comprehensible and concerning from someone with your training." "Justice, not revenge," she corrected him, closing the file with decisive precision. "These men have corrupted the system I once believed in, making traditional legal remedies impossible, which brings me to my proposition." The rain intensified outside, drumming against the windows as thunder rumbled in the distance. Jonathan set down his empty glass and finally took the seat she'd offered earlier, an unconscious acknowledgement that their conversation had entered a new phase. I can provide you with information to protect your organization from their fabricated investigation, Samantha stated, sitting across from him with perfect posture. In exchange, I need access to evidence that exists only within your network, proof of their corruption that even they don't realize you possess. Jonathan's smile didn't reach his eyes as he considered her proposal, weighing calculated risks against potential benefits. You're suggesting an alliance between a crime lord and a former federal agent, an arrangement fraught with mutual suspicion and competing objectives. I'm suggesting a temporary alignment of interests between two people with complementary resources, she countered, leaning forward slightly. 6 weeks, Mr. Prescott. That's how long before they move against you with fabricated evidence that would convince even a skeptical jury. A notification chimed on Samantha's phone, breaking the moment of consideration. Her expression changed subtly as she glanced at the screen, a micro-expression of alarm that Jonathan's experienced eyes didn't miss, despite her quick recovery. It appears our time for negotiation has suddenly shortened, she said, rising smoothly to her feet as she tucked the phone away. We have approximately 3 minutes before unwelcome visitors arrive. I suggest we continue this discussion elsewhere. Jonathan's black Bentley sliced through rain-slicked streets, tires hissing against wet asphalt, as Samantha directed his driver toward the waterfront district. The hasty exit from her apartment had necessitated leaving behind critical files, a circumstance that visibly frustrated her despite her composed exterior. Rodriguez's men have clearly accelerated their timeline, she observed, checking the secure phone she'd brought with her. The raid on my apartment suggests they've identified me as a potential complication to their plans. Decades of survival in Boston's criminal underworld had honed Jonathan's instincts for danger and opportunity in equal measure. He studied Samantha's profile as city lights played across her features, searching for signs of deception, but finding only focused determination. The Harbor View Hotel maintains a suite in my name, he decided, pressing a button to activate the privacy partition between them and his driver. It has appropriate security measures, and will serve as temporary headquarters while we assess our options. Rain hammered against the car windows as they passed through the financial district, the skyscrapers looming like sentinels through the downpour. Samantha remained silent, her gaze fixed on the passing scenery, while her mind clearly processed multiple contingency plans. Your FBI credentials, are they still active? Jonathan asked, his tone conversational despite the weight of the question. Technical details would determine their next steps, particularly access to federal databases and secure facilities. Samantha's slight smile carried no warmth as she turned toward him. My credentials were deactivated upon resignation, but certain access codes remain functional due to administrative oversights. Bureaucratic inefficiency occasionally proves useful. The Harbor View's underground parking provided discreet entry, with Jonathan's security team creating a protective formation around them, despite Samantha's visible discomfort with the arrangement. Their synchronized movements revealed extensive training beyond typical bodyguard services. Suite 1801 occupied the entire top floor, its panoramic windows offering unobstructed views of Boston Harbor, now obscured by sheets of driving rain. The opulent space featured multiple rooms, advanced security systems, and the unmistakable impression of a command center disguised as luxury accommodations. You have 24 hours to convince me this partnership is worth the inherent risks, Jonathan announced, removing his overcoat and handing it to a waiting attendant who materialized silently from an adjacent room. Beginning with concrete evidence about this alleged investigation, Samantha approached the floor-to-ceiling windows, her reflection superimposed over the storm-tossed harbor below. I'll need secure communication equipment, access to your information network, and at least 2 of your cyber specialists. Demanding, for someone seeking my assistance, Jonathan observed, loosening his tie as he moved toward a concealed bar. The casual gesture contradicted the calculating assessment in his eyes as he evaluated her request against potential benefits. Practical, for someone offering to save your empire, Samantha countered, turning to face him fully. Rodriguez plans to move significant product through your territory while you're occupied with federal entanglement. Classic misdirection with devastating financial implications. Jonathan's expression remained neutral as he poured 2 drinks, but the subtle tightening around his eyes revealed his reaction to this additional information. Interesting that you withheld this particular detail during our previous conversation. Strategic information release ensures continued dialogue, she replied, accepting the offered glass with steady hands. Full disclosure is poor negotiating practice, as I suspect you've demonstrated throughout your career. 6 days transformed the Harbor View Suite into an operational center, with encrypted monitors displaying surveillance feeds from key locations throughout Boston's underworld. Samantha worked methodically alongside Jonathan's specialists, her expertise in financial tracking systems proving invaluable as they unraveled the Rodriguez operation. "They've created a sophisticated money laundering structure using your legitimate business connections," she explained, highlighting transaction patterns on the central screen. "Every financial move creates potential RICO exposure, while appearing to originate from your organization." Jonathan stood behind her chair, close enough that she could detect the subtle spice of his cologne as he studied the evidence she'd compiled. Their proximity had evolved from cautious distance to professional familiarity over days of intensive collaboration. "Your former colleagues are more creative than I anticipated," he acknowledged, the admission significant from a man who rarely credited opponents with competence. "These transactions would convince even my most experienced attorneys of my direct involvement." Dawn broke over the harbor as they continued working, soft orange light gradually replacing the harsh glow of computer screens. Samantha rubbed her eyes, fatigue evident in the slight slump of shoulders that normally maintained perfect posture. "Rest," Jonathan directed, his tone making it an order rather than a suggestion. "Your effectiveness diminishes with each hour of sleep deprivation, a luxury neither of us can afford under current circumstances." Samantha's protest died on her lips as the suite's secure phone rang, the specialized encryption system restricting calls to a handful of Jonathan's most trusted lieutenants. His expression darkened as he listened, fingers tapping a complex pattern against the polished desk surface. "Rodriguez's people just hit our warehouse in South Boston," he announced after ending the call, his controlled voice belying the rage evident in his clenched jaw. "3 of my men hospitalized, a direct challenge requiring immediate response." "Exactly what they want," Samantha cautioned, rising from her chair to stand eye to eye with him. "A retaliatory strike creates evidence supporting their fabricated narrative. Patience outmaneuvers emotional reaction in this scenario." Something shifted in Jonathan's expression, a momentary vulnerability quickly masked behind practiced control. "My reputation requires decisive action when challenged," he explained, revealing the burden of expectations that accompanied his position. "Your survival requires strategic restraint," Samantha countered, her voice softening slightly despite the firmness of her position. "Reputation means nothing if you're serving consecutive life sentences while Rodriguez controls your territory." Jonathan moved to the window, silhouetted against morning light breaking through storm clouds that had lingered for days. The symbolic timing wasn't lost on either of them, as he considered options that contradicted decades of established response patterns. 24 hours, he finally decided, turning back toward her with renewed determination. "We accelerate information gathering while presenting the appearance of preparing retaliatory action. Rodriguez will expect nothing less." Samantha nodded approval, recognizing the significant concession from a man unaccustomed to altering course once set. "I need access to your offshore accounting systems. The evidence we require likely exists within transaction records from Cayman or Swiss holdings." The request crossed boundaries previously established in their working arrangement, requiring trust that neither had explicitly acknowledged developing. Jonathan studied her face before responding, his assessment going beyond simple calculation of risk. "Antonio will provide necessary access codes," he agreed, reaching for his jacket with decisive movements. "While you pursue that avenue, I'll handle a delicate matter requiring personal attention. Sometimes traditional methods yield results that technology cannot." Sunset painted the marina in crimson and gold as Jonathan's yacht departed Boston Harbor, its sleek profile cutting through calm waters that belied recent storms. Samantha stood on the upper deck, the ocean breeze loosening strands of auburn hair from her customary severe style. "Your offshore records confirmed my suspicions," she informed Jonathan as he joined her, tablet in hand displaying complex financial diagrams. "Rodriguez has systematically compromised 3 federal judges and the assistant director of the Boston field office." Jonathan accepted the tablet, scrolling through evidence with the practiced eye of someone accustomed to identifying irregularities in financial transactions. His expression remained impassive, but the slight tension in his shoulders revealed growing concern. "We're meeting a contact who can authenticate these records through official channels," he explained, returning the tablet while scanning the horizon with practiced vigilance. "His position within the Treasury Department provides access to verification systems beyond your former clearance level." The meeting location, a private cove 30 minutes from Boston, had been selected for its isolation and defensibility, characteristics that triggered Samantha's professional paranoia. She adjusted her jacket, confirming the reassuring presence of her Glock in its shoulder holster. "Your unease is warranted but unnecessary," Jonathan commented, noting her subtle preparations with amusement. "This particular contact has provided reliable intelligence for 15 years. Self-interest ensures his continued cooperation." Samantha's response died in her throat as she spotted unusual movement on the approaching shoreline, the distinctive flash of tactical equipment barely visible among natural cover. "Down!" she commanded, simultaneously drawing her weapon and shoving Jonathan below the deck railing. Gunfire erupted seconds later, bullets splintering wood and shattering glass as the yacht's security system activated automatically. Emergency engines engaged with a roar, rapidly increasing distance from the shoreline, while bulletproof shields deployed over exposed areas. "Your reliable contact appears compromised," Samantha observed dryly, maintaining her protective position over Jonathan, despite his attempts to reverse their positioning. Blood spread slowly across her white blouse, revealing an injury she'd yet to acknowledge. Jonathan's expression transformed from surprise to cold fury as he registered her wound, efficiently applying pressure while barking orders into a concealed communication device. "Medical team standing by at secondary location. 10 minutes maximum arrival time." "Evidence secure?" Samantha questioned through gritted teeth, professional priorities overriding physical discomfort as she maintained situational awareness. The tablet containing their critical findings had fallen nearby during the initial assault. "Irrelevant if you bleed out," Jonathan replied, his typical detachment replaced by unexpected concern as he increased pressure on her wound. The yacht accelerated toward open water, security protocols initiating defensive countermeasures against potential pursuit. Pain clouded Samantha's vision as blood loss took its toll, yet her training maintained her focus on mission parameters rather than personal safety. "The evidence is everything," she insisted, gripping Jonathan's wrist with surprising strength despite her weakening condition. "You are everything," he responded, the unguarded admission surprising them both as medical personnel swarmed the deck. The unexpected sincerity in his voice penetrated even her diminishing consciousness as emergency treatment began. Darkness encroached on Samantha's awareness, reality fading as skilled hands worked to stabilize her condition. The last sensation she registered was Jonathan's fingers intertwined with hers, an anchor against the current threatening to sweep her away. "Trust me." His voice followed her into unconsciousness, the simple phrase carrying weight beyond its component words. "This time, justice will prevail. I give you my word." Marina lights blurred into streaks of color as the yacht raced towards safety, its powerful engines driving them away from immediate danger, while Jonathan's organization mobilized in response to the attack. The failed ambush had transformed a professional alliance into something far more personal and infinitely more dangerous. Consciousness returned to Samantha in fragments. The steady beep of medical equipment, hushed voices discussing treatment protocols, and the unexpected sensation of fingers still intertwined with hers. She opened her eyes to find Jonathan asleep in a chair beside her bed, his typically immaculate appearance disheveled from hours of vigilance. The private medical facility occupied the secure lower level of Jonathan's countryside estate, its equipment and staffing rivaling premier hospitals without accompanying documentation. Samantha assessed her condition with clinical detachment, surgical wound professionally dressed, IV delivering fluids and medication, minimal movement restrictions despite significant trauma. 3 days, Jonathan stated quietly, instantly alert despite apparent exhaustion. The bullet missed vital organs, but blood loss required substantial transfusion and recovery monitoring. Samantha attempted to sit upright, grimacing as pain overrode determination and forced her back against pillows. "The evidence?" she questioned, professional priorities unchanged despite her brush with mortality. "Secure and expanded," Jonathan assured her, reaching for a tablet on the bedside table. "While you recuperated, my team identified additional connections between Rodriguez and the compromised officials, a network more extensive than initially suspected. The information displayed on screen confirmed her worst fears, corruption extending beyond Boston to Washington connections that explained the protection Rodriguez had enjoyed, despite numerous investigations. Names and account numbers scrolled past, each representing another compromised official. "I've activated contingency protocols rarely employed during my 30 years in Boston," Jonathan continued, his tone revealing the gravity of his decision. "My organization has temporarily ceased all questionable activities, complete legitimate operational status for the first time since my father's era." Samantha studied his face, searching for deception, but finding only strategic calculation, mixed with something more personal. A significant sacrifice of revenue and influence, she observed, understanding the potential consequences within his world. A necessary tactical adjustment, he corrected, though the distinction seemed semantic rather than substantive. Rodriguez expects retaliatory violence. Our restraint confuses their strategic planning while undermining the narrative they've constructed. Night descended outside as they continued reviewing evidence, the estate's expansive grounds visible through bulletproof windows designed to appear conventional. Security patrols moved with practiced precision along predetermined routes, maintaining protective coverage without obvious presence. They targeted you specifically during the ambush, Jonathan noted, highlighting surveillance footage that showed gunmen adjusting positions as Samantha appeared on deck. Your identity remains their primary concern, not mine. The revelation shifted her understanding of recent events, realigning threat assessments and potential motivations. I wasn't investigating Rodriguez during my FBI tenure, she recalled, mental chronology confirming the timeline discrepancy. Yet, something in your background presents sufficient threat to warrant elimination, Jonathan concluded, reaching for a secure phone as it signaled an incoming communication. The brief conversation consisted primarily of single-word responses, his expression growing increasingly serious. Rodriguez is mobilizing significant resources toward this location, he announced after ending the call, rising smoothly despite evident fatigue. We have approximately 4 hours before their forces arrive. Insufficient time for safe relocation given your condition. Samantha pushed herself upright despite protesting muscles and healing wounds, years of training overriding physical limitations. I won't be responsible for endangering your people, she stated firmly, disconnecting monitoring equipment with practiced efficiency. You misunderstand the situation, Jonathan replied, gently but firmly reconnecting critical monitors. This estate was designed to withstand military-grade assault. We're not evacuating, merely preparing appropriate welcome for uninvited guests. His calm confidence sparked an unexpected realization. Jonathan had anticipated this development, perhaps even encouraged it through carefully managed information leaks. You're using me as bait, Samantha concluded, admiration mingling with wariness in her assessment. I prefer strategic focal point, he corrected with the first genuine smile she'd witnessed since their partnership began. Rodriguez's obsession with eliminating you has created exploitable vulnerability, emotional response overriding tactical consideration. Lightning flashed across midnight skies as storm clouds gathered above the estate, nature providing atmospheric accompaniment to impending confrontation. Jonathan's security team transformed the pastoral property into a defensive fortress with practiced efficiency that spoke of previous implementation. Perimeter sensors detect 12 individuals approaching from the south access road, Antonio reported, holographic tactical display highlighting heat signatures moving through dense forest. Vehicle support remains at minimum safe distance. Standard cartel protocol for deniable operations. Samantha studied the tactical display from her position in the central security hub, physical limitations necessitating strategic rather than direct involvement. Her FBI training provided valuable counterintelligence perspective as Jonathan's team finalized defensive positioning. Their approach indicates familiarity with property layout beyond public records, she observed, highlighting anomalies in movement patterns. Someone with intimate knowledge of your security systems is providing operational intelligence. Jonathan's expression hardened as he processed the implication, decades of underworld leadership having taught him the bitter lesson that betrayal typically originated from trusted inner circles. Identify potential internal compromise, he directed Antonio, who immediately began security protocol verification. South gate breach in progress, announced a voice through the communication system, triggering automated lockdown procedures throughout the estate. Security doors sealed with pneumatic hisses while bulletproof shields deployed over windows and vulnerable access points. Surveillance cameras captured the infiltration team's methodical advance, their military-grade equipment, and coordinated movements revealing training beyond typical cartel enforcement. Former special forces, Samantha identified, recognizing tactical formations from counterterrorism operations. Rodriguez's federal connections provide access to discharged operators seeking private sector opportunities, Jonathan confirmed, his tone suggesting previous encounters with similar teams. Skilled but predictable, their training creates exploitable patterns. The security hub's main screen suddenly flickered, surveillance feeds momentarily disrupting before resolving into an unexpected image. Rodriguez himself, seated comfortably in what appeared to be the estate's eastern guest house. His expression conveyed smug satisfaction as he addressed the camera directly. "I must commend your hospitality, Prescott," he began, Boston accent considerably thicker than Jonathan's refined tones. "Though arriving through the servant's entrance lacks proper etiquette, your security chief was most accommodating with access codes." Antonio's expression registered momentary confusion before comprehension dawned, his hand moving toward his weapon as Jonathan raised a restraining finger. "Confirmation, before action," he cautioned, typing commands into a secondary terminal with practiced precision. Rodriguez continued his monologue, explaining elaborate plans for assuming control of Jonathan's territory, while federal authorities processed his anticipated arrest. The performance provided critical intelligence despite its theatrical delivery, each boast revealing operational details useful for countermeasures. "Your chief of security has served me for 3 years, Rodriguez concluded with evident satisfaction, camera angle widening to reveal Antonio's younger brother kneeling beside him with evident terror. Family loyalty ultimately proves stronger than professional obligation. Jonathan terminated the connection with a deliberate keystroke, turning toward Antonio with unreadable expression. "Your brother was taken 4 days ago from his university apartment," he stated calmly, retrieving documentation from a secure drawer. "Rodriguez's theatrics confirm our counterintelligence operation succeeded." Relief washed across Antonio's features as understanding replaced momentary doubt, the elaborate deception having served its purpose. "The false intelligence I've been leaking led them directly into positioned countermeasures," he confirmed, tactical display showing infiltration teams entering predetermined containment zones. "Federal agents are standing by for evidence delivery," Samantha noted, monitoring encrypted communications on a separate system. "Rodriguez's presence provides opportunity beyond our original parameters, direct apprehension rather than documentary prosecution." Jonathan considered options with the calculated precision that had sustained his organization through decades of underworld evolution. "Activate Dante Protocol," he decided, the literary reference triggering immediate recognition among his senior team members. Dawn broke over the estate as federal tactical teams secured the property's perimeter, their unmarked vehicles establishing containment zones at all potential exit points. Agent in charge William Harrison coordinated operations from a mobile command center, his expression revealing conflict between professional obligation and personal history. 27 arrests, including Rodriguez and 3 federal employees identified in your evidence package, he informed Samantha, professional courtesy extending to a former colleague despite circumstances raising numerous questions. "Your information proved accurate down to location coordinates and individual armaments." Samantha maintained professional demeanor despite physical discomfort, her FBI credentials temporarily reinstated for operational continuity. "The evidence includes banking records documenting systematic corruption across multiple agencies," she explained, transferring secured files through approved channels. "Your association with Prescott remains problematic from investigative perspective," Harrison noted, decades of friendship evident in his concerned tone rather than official documentation. "The Bureau's Internal Affairs Division has questions about methodology and potential compromise." Jonathan observed the exchange from appropriate distance, his organization's temporary legitimate status providing unusual freedom of movement during federal operations. The calculated risk of allowing authorities full access to his estate demonstrated confidence in comprehensive contingency planning. "My testimony regarding Miss Doit Pao. Hayes covers only her assistance in exposing Rodriguez's operation," he assured Harrison when approached for statement. "Our association began and concluded with that singular objective, professional parameters maintained throughout engagement." Samantha concealed surprise at his deliberate mischaracterization, understanding the strategic necessity of distance between them during official proceedings. Her career rehabilitation required separation from Jonathan's world, despite complicated emotions neither had directly acknowledged. "The director has authorized conditional reinstatement pending review," Harrison informed her privately as documentation processing concluded. "Your methods raised concerns, but results justify provisional approval, effective immediately if you're physically cleared for duty." Morning sunlight illuminated the estate's extensive gardens as federal personnel gradually withdrew, evidence secured, and suspects transported to appropriate facilities. Samantha found Jonathan on the eastern terrace, overlooking landscaped grounds that betrayed no evidence of night's dramatic events. "Your career restoration appears imminent," he observed without turning, somehow sensing her presence despite silent approach. "Appropriate outcome given your dedication to justice rather than mere revenge." Samantha moved beside him at the stone balustrade, Professional distance momentarily abandoned as operational necessity concluded. Justice required unorthodox methods in this instance, she acknowledged, tacit recognition of his critical role in achieving legitimate outcomes. My organization will maintain legitimate operations for the foreseeable future, Jonathan stated, the announcement representing significant departure from established patterns. Recent events demonstrated vulnerabilities within traditional methodology. Adaptation ensures survival in evolving landscapes. The declaration contained implications beyond immediate circumstances. Potential transformation of Boston's underworld power structure through unprecedented business model adjustment. Samantha recognized the strategic brilliance while questioning sustainability, given entrenched operational history. Your reinstatement creates interesting possibilities, Jonathan continued after comfortable silence, his gaze remaining fixed on distant horizon rather than her response. Federal credentials provide access unavailable through conventional channels, valuable partnership potential under appropriate parameters. Samantha understood the unspoken proposal. Continuation of their unlikely alliance through structured channels benefiting both professional objectives. Consulting arrangements require strict compliance guidelines, she noted, neither accepting nor rejecting the implicit offer. Parameters ensuring mutual benefit while maintaining necessary separation. Jonathan agreed, finally turning toward her with unexpected vulnerability beneath customary controlled expression. Personal factors notwithstanding until professional circumstances permit appropriate exploration. The acknowledgement of emotional connection beyond strategic alliance hung between them, neither willing to dismiss its significance, nor capable of pursuing its potential under current circumstances. Professional obligations and personal inclinations remained temporarily irreconcilable, despite shared understanding. 6 months, Samantha decided. Professional pragmatism establishing necessary boundaries. Sufficient time for your operational transition and my position stabilization. Reassessment of possibilities when both conditions satisfied. Jonathan extended his hand in formal agreement, the gesture simultaneously acknowledging professional terms while conveying deeper commitment through lingering contact. Boston's transformation requires expertise beyond my traditional resources. Your perspective provides invaluable guidance during transition. Their partnership had evolved from confrontational beginning to unexpected alliance, mutual respect replacing initial suspicion as shared objectives aligned disparate methods. The waitress who had fearlessly confronted a notorious crime lord now stood as his equal, professional boundaries establishing foundation for potential personal connection. Thank you all for following this story to its conclusion. If you enjoyed it, please write in the comments where you're watching from, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video, as your support is essential for me to continue creating content like this for you.